I remember the morning clearly, a slow Monday, the kind where the sun takes its time, and patients trickle in like a sleepy stream. Mrs. Thompson, 78, came in with her usual sharp wit and a grocery bag full of questions. "Doc," she said, plopping down in the chair across from my desk, "I've been eating almonds and walnuts every day like you said. But then my neighbor said nuts can actually kill you if you're old. What gives?" That question stopped me in my tracks. Because while nuts are often hailed as nutritional gold, rich in magnesium, heart-friendly fats, and muscle-loving protein, the truth, like many things in medicine, is more nuanced. Let's start with the good news: nuts are powerful allies as we age. Just a handful a day can reduce inflammation, strengthen muscles, and even sharpen cognition. I've seen this firsthand. My patient, Mr. Jenkins, 82, who could barely walk a city block without stopping to rest, began including a mix of pumpkin seeds, almonds, and walnuts in his breakfast. Within weeks, his leg cramps had lessened, and he felt steadier on his feet. Biochemically, this makes sense. Nuts are dense with magnesium, which plays a critical role in muscle contraction and relaxation. Many seniors are deficient, whether due to reduced appetite, medications, or simply decades of dietary gaps. 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds, for instance, delivers nearly half the recommended daily magnesium for older adults. Almonds follow close behind. Nuts also contain healthy fats, especially omega-3s in walnuts and monounsaturated fats in almonds and cashews, which improve blood flow and reduce the low-grade inflammation that often causes joint pain and stiffness. For older muscles trying to heal, this is as good as gold. But, and here's where Mrs. Thompson's neighbor wasn't entirely wrong, there are risks to be mindful of. First, caloric density. Nuts are tiny, but they pack a serious energy punch. 1 heaping handful of mixed nuts can contain over 200 calories. For older adults with slowed metabolism or limited mobility, this can easily lead to weight gain if not portioned wisely. Obesity, as we know, increases the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and joint stress. Second, and more seriously, is the choking risk. As we age, swallowing function often weakens due to reduced saliva, muscle coordination issues, or even neurological conditions like Parkinson's or stroke recovery. Crunchy nuts, especially large or hard ones like almonds or Brazil nuts, can pose a serious hazard. I've seen emergency cases. 1 woman aspirated a piece of cashew and ended up with pneumonia. This is why I advise my older patients to opt for ground, slivered, or soaked nuts. Soaking almonds overnight not only softens them, reducing the risk of choking, but also deactivates phytates, compounds that inhibit mineral absorption, making the nutrients more bioavailable. Third, nut allergies, while less common to develop anew in old age, can still become dangerous due to weakened immune response and comorbidities. An elderly person may react more severely to a mild allergen, and the body's ability to bounce back from anaphylaxis or even minor inflammation is slower. But perhaps the most overlooked risk, and one I encountered in a troubling case a few years ago, is nut-induced bowel obstruction. So what's a senior supposed to do? The answer lies in respecting the power of nuts, treating them not as a casual snack, but as a nutrient-dense medicine of sorts. And like any medicine, dose, delivery, and timing matter. Most importantly, nuts should never be consumed mindlessly out of a jar while watching TV. Instead, I tell my patients, measure your portion, a small handful or 1 ounce, soak or crush them if needed, and ideally pair them with other foods like yogurt, oatmeal, or leafy greens. The synergy enhances absorption and reduces digestive strain. After Mrs. Thompson left that morning, her question lingered. Can something as small and innocent as a handful of nuts really change your odds of living longer, or worse, shorten your life if mishandled. I went home that night thinking of another patient, Mrs. Albright, who'd come to me a year prior with mild memory issues. She was sharp, warm, but clearly concerned. "I forget names," she said, "and sometimes my thoughts get foggy." We'd already done the labs, ruled out thyroid, B12 deficiency, and other causes. Then she asked me something I always love to hear: "Is there anything I can eat that helps?" I told her about walnuts. You see, of all the nuts, walnuts are uniquely rich in alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that supports brain structure and function. Several studies, including one from UCLA, found that older adults who consumed walnuts regularly performed better on cognitive tests, particularly those involving memory and processing speed. The reason? Inflammation plays a major role in brain aging. Walnuts, packed with antioxidants like polyphenol and vitamin E, help cool the low-grade, chronic inflammation that erodes neurons over time. One study even showed that seniors who consumed just 1 to 2 ounces of walnuts daily had slower cognitive decline, and we're not talking marginal differences. And what about the heart? This is where the nut story really shines. Across dozens of studies, including massive ones like the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, people who ate nuts regularly, particularly almonds, pistachios, hazelnuts, and pecans, had lower risks of heart attacks and strokes. We're talking about a 20 to 30% reduced risk of cardiovascular disease in those who ate nuts 5 or more times a week. How does this happen? First, nuts help regulate cholesterol. The monounsaturated fats in almonds and the phytosterols in pistachios reduce LDL, the bad cholesterol, while maintaining or even raising HDL, the good one. They also lower triglycerides, a hidden risk factor, especially in older adults with insulin resistance. Second, nuts are rich in arginine, an amino acid that helps produce nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels and improves blood flow. That's crucial when you're trying to keep your arteries flexible and your blood pressure in check without adding another pill to the cabinet. But here's the kicker: one 2019 study in the journal Circulation found that replacing red meat with nuts as a primary protein source reduced overall mortality. Let me say that again, not just improved heart health or cholesterol numbers, but actually lowered the risk of dying from any cause. That's why I say nuts are like little nutritional time machines. They don't just feed your body, they slow the clock. Yes, nuts can extend your life, but mishandled, they might shorten it. Aside from the choking hazard and bowel obstruction, there's one more risk we haven't talked about: aflatoxins. Aflatoxins are naturally occurring toxins produced by certain molds that can grow on nuts, particularly peanuts and tree nuts stored in warm, humid conditions. In high doses and over time, aflatoxins are linked to liver damage and even cancer. Now, before you swear off peanuts forever, know this: in the U.S., nuts are tightly regulated, and the FDA limits aflatoxin levels in all nuts sold commercially. But still, I advise buying from reputable brands, checking for freshness, and storing your nuts in a cool, dry place, or even the freezer, to avoid spoilage. And then there's salt. Many store-bought nut mixes are loaded with sodium, which can quietly sabotage your blood pressure. I always recommend unsalted, raw, or dry-roasted options. If flavor's an issue, toss them with cinnamon, smoked paprika, or a drizzle of olive oil and rosemary. One final point, and it's a practical one: diversity matters. Don't just stick with almonds or peanuts. Mix in Brazil nuts, for selenium, macadamias, for healthy fat variety, pistachios, for potassium, and chia or flax seeds if you need fiber. Each nut brings its own tool to the toolbox, its own set of vitamins, minerals, and bioactive compounds that your aging body can use. When I followed up with Mrs. Albright 6 months later, she hadn't just started eating walnuts, she'd built herself a brain bowl of mixed seeds, berries, yogurt, and cinnamon she made every morning. Her memory hadn't reversed, but her mood had lifted, her energy was better, and most importantly, she felt hopeful. After 2 decades of practicing medicine, I've learned this: the small habits matter far more than the big gestures. A gym membership won't mean much if your joints are inflamed. And a daily multivitamin won't fix a diet that spikes your blood sugar every morning. But a handful of well-chosen nuts? Now that can change your day, maybe even your life. I want to talk strategy, how to make nuts part of your routine in a way that's safe, effective, and, well, enjoyable. Let me start with timing. For most of my older patients, mornings are the best time to consume nuts. Why? 2 reasons. First, your body is in a fasted state and absorbs nutrients more efficiently. Second, a protein-fat-fiber combo first thing helps stabilize blood sugar and sustain energy until lunch, especially important if you're prone to mid-morning crashes or dizziness. I recommend this simple formula: 1 ounce of mixed nuts, protein, produce. For example, Greek yogurt with walnuts, blueberries, and chia seeds. Scrambled eggs with spinach and slivered almonds on the side. Oatmeal topped with ground flax, pumpkin seeds, and a few sliced strawberries. But if mornings aren't your thing, evenings work too, especially if you suffer from nocturnal leg cramps or restless legs. Magnesium and potassium-rich nuts like pumpkin seeds and pistachios can help muscles relax overnight. I tell my patients, try a tablespoon of soaked pumpkin seeds before bed, or a few roasted cashews with warm herbal tea. It's like tucking your muscles in for the night. Now, let's talk about preparation. This is critical for older adults, especially those with dental issues or slower digestion. I always recommend soaking hard nuts, like almonds, overnight in water. This softens them and improves mineral absorption. Grinding or chopping nuts to add into oatmeal, smoothies, or salads, easier to chew and digest. Avoiding candied or heavily salted nuts, which undermine all the health benefits. Check the label. If sugar or salt is in the first 3 ingredients, skip it. A few of my patients use nut butters, and that's fine, as long as you go natural. Look for peanut or almond butter with just 1 or 2 ingredients, nuts and maybe salt. Stir well, refrigerate, and don't go overboard. Even a tablespoon packs a lot of calories. One of my favorite recipes I often share is what I call the power jar. 2 tablespoons Greek yogurt. 1 tablespoon ground flax seed. 1 tablespoon chopped walnuts. A few blueberries or raspberries. A sprinkle of cinnamon. Mix it in a small jar the night before, and boom, breakfast with brain, bone, and muscle benefits ready when you wake up. Now for a final tip, and it might be the most important: consistency beats perfection. You don't need to eat 7 kinds of nuts every day or memorize their mineral content. Just start with 1 habit. Maybe it's adding walnuts to your oatmeal. Maybe it's switching your chips for pistachios. Maybe it's sipping a smoothie with almond butter and frozen banana instead of skipping breakfast altogether. But here's the truth that brings it all together: nuts are not just food, they're functional medicine for the aging body. Yet like any potent therapy, they need to be handled with care. Let me break it down clearly. The benefits. Heart health. Regular nut consumption lowers cholesterol, reduces blood pressure, and improves circulation. Brain support. Walnuts and other omega-3 rich nuts may slow cognitive decline and enhance memory. Muscle and joint aid. Magnesium and anti-inflammatory fats reduce cramping, support recovery, and ease stiffness. Longevity. Studies consistently show that people who eat nuts live longer, healthier lives, especially if they replace processed snacks and red meat. The risks, and how to avoid them. Choking or dental issues, soak or chop nuts. Don't eat them dry if you have trouble swallowing. Bowel blockages, chew thoroughly, drink fluids, and avoid overconsumption. Caloric overload, stick to 1 ounce, a small handful, daily. More is not always better. Allergies or aflatoxins, buy high-quality, unsalted nuts. Store them properly in a cool, dry place. So what's the bottom line? As a physician, I recommend most older adults include nuts in their diet, but intentionally and moderately. A small handful of mixed nuts a day, prepared wisely and eaten with balance, can support your heart, mind, and muscles better than many medications I've prescribed. But you don't need to overhaul your life to see results. Start with one habit. Soak 10 almonds overnight and eat them in the morning. Add chopped walnuts to your oatmeal. Replace evening crackers with a few cashews and fruit. And most importantly, listen to your body. If you feel better, fewer cramps, more energy, steadier steps, you're on the right track. Nuts aren't magic. But in the aging journey, they're a reliable, humble companion. One that fits in your pocket, your breakfast bowl, and even your long walk around the block. I had one patient, Mr. Lewis, who used to skip lunch and snack on crackers. After a bad fall due to muscle weakness, we revamped his routine. Now he carries a Ziploc bag of roasted almonds and dried cherries everywhere he goes. His strength improved, but more importantly, so did his confidence. "Doc," he told me, "I feel like I've got fuel again." That's really the point. Because the goal isn't just to live longer. It's to walk farther. Stand taller. Think sharper. To feel like your body is working for you again, not against you. And sometimes, it starts with something as small as a handful of nuts. So here's my prescription: pick a nut, any nut. Try it today. Try it mindfully, soak it, chew it, taste it. Pair it with something green or fibrous. And see how your body responds. You might not notice much in a day. But in a week? You might be sleeping better. In a month? You might be walking longer, thinking more clearly, and getting fewer cramps. In a year? You might not just feel healthier, you might be healthier in ways your labs will confirm. And if anyone questions your snack, you can tell them your doctor made you do it.